All right, Rich Van Tassel back with you, finishing up our game picks for now Week 14 of the NFL season. And of course, we are recording audio for Get Live Radio. The Philadelphia Eagles, 10-2, 4-2 on the road, travel to Los Angeles to play the Rams, who are 9-3, 4-2 at home. Big game, actually. Los Angeles still has an outside shot at that number one overall spot. Certainly, a win against Philadelphia would help. They did lose to Minnesota, however. Injuries for the visiting Eagles. Zach Ertz, tight end, Joe Walker, running linebacker, are questionable. For the Los Angeles Rams, Robert Woods, wide receiver, Alec Ogletree, linebacker, Connor Barwin, linebacker, are questionable. Dominique Hatfield, cornerback, doubtful. This is going to be a good test for that Los Angeles defense. That front seven needs to be able to stop the run, and they also need to be able to get pressure on Carson Wentz and not give him time to pick apart the secondary downfield. The Rams' secondary is not terrible, but it's clearly not the strength of their defense. Let's see if Todd Gurley, who's really put together a very good season, borderline all-pro season at running back for the Rams, can control the clock, keep Philadelphia off the field. We've said this many times with the Eagles. As good as Carson Wentz is playing, to me, it's been their running game that's been most impressive. LeGarrette Blount playing very well over 4 yards per carry. They brought in Jay Ajayi. So when those things are rolling for the Eagles in the running game, it opens things up for Carson Wentz to be able to find his weapons. Important for the Rams, Jared Goff to move the sticks, keep the Eagles' offense off the field. I don't think they're going to be able to do it enough, however, and the Eagles, after that loss to the Seattle Seahawks last week, will be able to come away with the victory in this one. Should be relatively high scoring between two good offenses. I like 31-27, the Eagles over the Los Angeles Rams. The Tennessee Titans, 8-4, 3-3 on the road, travel to Atlanta to play the Cardinals, who have been 7, 3-3 at home. The Titans are listing one injury. It's Derek Morgan, the linebacker. He's out. For the Arizona Cardinals, Aaron Brewer, long snapper, as an injury reserve, out. John Brown, wide receiver, Adrian Peterson, running back, are both out. J.J. Nelson, wide receiver, Patrick Peterson, cornerback, questionable. Don't ever discount a long snapper injury. He's the most unnoticed guy, but he has such an important role. You only notice these guys when they mess up, which is very rare when you think about it, but certainly in a game that could come down to 3 points or a botched snap on a punt or anything like that, the long snapper can be critical, so we'll have to keep an eye on that situation. Arizona doesn't have Adrian Peterson. He's been up or down. This very well could be the end of Adrian Peterson. Let's see what they're able to do offensively. It hasn't been that good since Carson Palmer went down. They've just been way too inconsistent. He wasn't even that great when Carson Palmer was in this game. Again, Tennessee, Marcus Mariota, 12 interceptions, a little too high. Delaney Walker, their leading receiver, again, the tight end. They've got to get the receivers more involved. Of course, they're going to run the ball. They're going to be able to do it effectively. But for this team, which has chance, I believe, with that offensive line and the way they run the ball to be able to make some noise in the playoffs. They need Marcus Mariota to be able to establish some big plays. Let's see if he can do that in this game with a tough defense, especially in the secondary. You have guys like Patrick Peterson, who is questionable. He can certainly shut guys down. What's an already limited wide receiver core. I expect Tennessee to get the victory. This could be a tricky game. Arizona, of course, has to win out, and that's almost certainly still not even going to put them in the playoffs. But it's, caution to the win for the Cardinals. They're going to give a lot to the Tennessee Titans, assuming they come to play. They may have packed it in. Let's see if the Titans can handle it. I expect they do. 21-14 Tennessee over the Arizona Cardinals. The New York Jets, 5-7, 1-4 on the road, travel to Denver to play the Broncos, who are 3-9, 3-3 at home. Injuries for the visiting Jets. Bruce Carter, linebacker, is out. Matt Forte, running back. Brian Winters, guard, questionable. For the Broncos, Derek Wolfe, defensive end, is an injury reserve, out. Ronald Leary, the guard, is also out. Domata Peko, defensive tackle. Emmanuel Sanders, wide receiver, and Adam Gostis, defensive end, are questionable. Of course, here's a situation in the AFC where you have a 5-7 team that still very much has a lot to play for. It's going to be difficult for the Jets, don't get me wrong. I'm not pretending it's not. But where you have a 5-7 team like we just discussed with the Arizona Cardinals, it's almost impossible in the NFC for one of those teams at 5-7 to make the playoffs. The Jets would have to win out. It starts with a Denver team that's probably folded it in for the season. Who knows? Their quarterback play simply has not been good enough. Their defenses had a lot of strain on them because of the quarterback play, and it's really all just gone downhill for the Denver Broncos. However, Denver is a tough place to play at elevation. Let's see if the Jets can handle that. Make sure they remain disciplined. They, of course, have to win out, as we said. They've let McCown basically play. They haven't really put the shackles on him at all. If he can keep that up, they should have a good chance to win. You've had guys like Robbie Anderson step up in the receiving game for the New York Jets, so let's see if they can go into Denver and get a much-needed victory. I expect they do, but it wouldn't surprise me if the Jets lay an egg in this game. But I'm liking a score of 21-10. That Denver offense really is just not impressing me thus far this season. The Washington Redskins, 5-7, 2-4 on the road, travel to Los Angeles to play the Chargers, who are 6-6, 3-3 at home. Injuries for the visiting Washington Redskins: Jordan Reed, tight end; Maurice Harris, wide receiver; and Monte Nicholson, safety, are out. Zach Brown and Martell Spate, linebackers, are questionable. For the Chargers, Mike Williams, wide receiver; Corey Ligout, defensive tackle, is questionable. Ligout has been battling injuries all year long. Chargers, some way, somehow, after starting out 0-4, they are tied at top the AFC West with both the Kansas City Chiefs and the Oakland Raiders at 6-6, so they still have a lot to play for. Phillip Rivers has really come on. You may have to give Phillip Rivers some serious most valuable player consideration if he can take this team in the playoffs. 21 touchdowns to 7 interceptions. He's almost certainly going to go over 4,000 yards. Very well could go over 4,500 yards. He's having a very good season. Melvin Gordon, of course, coming along as well, still below 4 yards per carry, but as we discussed a little earlier with Todd Gurley, those were two guys that came in the same draft. They've both struggled at times. Gurley really coming along. Let's see if Gordon can continue to progress. Keenan Allen on the offensive side of the ball, all-pro potential, 77 receptions, over 1,000 yards, 5 touchdowns. That offense is clicking for the Chargers. The Washington Redskins, they've played well in games. They've been injured, as they are in this one, missing Jordan Reed and Maurice Harris, 2 weapons for Kirk Cousins. Now Monte Nicholson is also out. They've had their offensive line injuries. It's been an up and down year, clearly an inconsistent year, especially when you have injuries, and especially those injuries to the offensive line makes it difficult. They could throw a monkey wrench in the Chargers season. Washington has shown at times they will surprise you when you least expect it in games. So certainly there is potential there that they get the victory in this one, but I don't see it happening. I see the Chargers continue to roll. I see them scoring some points on the Washington Redskins, and the Redskins are not able to keep up. I like 27-17, the Chargers over the Washington Redskins. Seattle Seahawks, 8-4, 4-2 on the road. Travel to Jacksonville to play the Jaguars, who are 8-4, 4-2 at home. Very interesting game here. I actually really like this matchup. Seattle, their injuries: Ode Abashe, guard; Chris Carson, running back, are injury reserve outs. Nazir Jones, defensive tackle, is out. Deion Jordan, defensive end, is questionable. For the Jacksonville Jaguars, Telvin Smith, linebacker; Jalen Ramsey, cornerback, are questionable. Allen Hurns, wide receiver, is out. Of course, with Seattle, as we've discussed all season long, it's the Russell Wilson show. He's their leading passer and their leading rusher. I wouldn't be surprised if at some point he's their leading receiver. He's doing everything for this team. Jacksonville has a very good defense. Let's see what that defense can do in this game, because they just have to focus on shutting down Russell Wilson. They have the secondary where they can allow Boyd and Jalen Ramsey to both go one-on-one. Expect Jalen Ramsey, he is questionable to go, and that would force a lot on Russell Wilson. Allow that front seven to be able to get pressure. Look for Dante Fowler Jr. Just got to make sure they keep him in the pocket. Blake Bortles, look, I've been very critical of Blake Bortles. He's done enough this year, and he has this team where they need to be. Could he play better? Yes, but he's, for the most part, limited his turnovers. He will have to do that in this one. He has to just be proficient and allow that defense to make the plays and put up enough points. I think Jacksonville's going to get the victory in this one. As we've said many times with the Jaguars, sometimes I don't want to pick them, sometimes I do, sometimes I put too much trust in them, sometimes I don't. I'm really liking the way this team's progressing. I think that with that secondary of Boyd and Jalen Ramsey, they can completely just focus everything on Russell Wilson, and it will allow them to get the victory in this one. I like a low-scoring game, 23-14. I would expect to see some turnovers by Russell Wilson in this one. And then the Sunday night game, the Baltimore Ravens 7-5, 3-3 on the road, travel to Pittsburgh to play the Steelers, who are 10-2, 4-1 at home. Of course, a very big game for the Baltimore Ravens in the wild card race. It's going to be tough. Even if they were to win this game, I wouldn't expect them to still be able to win the division. Pittsburgh, of course, almost has that division wrapped up, but they are still playing for the #1 overall seed as they spar it out with the New England Patriots. Injuries for the visiting Baltimore Ravens: Jeremy Maclin, wide receiver; Jermaine Lemonor, guard; and C.J. Mosley, linebacker, are questionable. Darius Smith, a linebacker, is doubtful. For the Pittsburgh Steelers, Joe Hayden, cornerback; Jude Smith-Schuster, wide receiver; Ryan Shazier, of course, that serious injury on Monday night; and Tyler Matakevich, linebacker, are all out. Mike Mitchell, the safety, is questionable. Baltimore has won a few games here. They've started to limit the turnovers with Joe Flacco. They've started to get the ball downfield. You look, this is a team that loves to throw the ball downfield. They don't do it all the time, but Joe Flacco certainly loves his moments where he just likes to go back and let it fly. He has that cannon, but their top receiver is Mike Wallace, and he doesn't even have 500 yards this season. Only 34 catches. Wallace is a guy who can get downfield. He would be perfect for that offense. Let's see if Baltimore can continue to develop that. Alex Collins has run the ball well, and that has, I think, helped Joe Flacco limit the turnovers, though. Even though he was running the ball well at first, Joe Flacco would still struggle with the turnovers. Of course, Antonio Brown is putting together another spectacular season. I was hearing MVP chants on Monday Night Football for Antonio Brown. I've been saying for about 3 years now, Antonio Brown needs more consideration in the MVP race. This guy is spectacular. You can't discount anything he does. And of course, Le'Veon Bell is coming along nicely as well. A consistent game for Pittsburgh would be nice. They didn't have it Monday against the Cincinnati Bengals on all phases of the game. They got down early and they didn't have the lead until they kicked the field goal at the buzzer. Let's see if they can do that in this one. Let's see what Baltimore has. Pittsburgh had that slugfest on Monday night. It should be an interesting game. I think the Baltimore Ravens are going to go into Pittsburgh and get a much-needed victory and distance themselves from everyone else in the wild card chase, and they come away with a 27-24 victory in what it will be a classic Baltimore Ravens-Pittsburgh Steelers matchup.